Welcome to the Your Talent Matters podcast, where we delve into the world of human resources and employee benefits in Canada. Join hosts Mehdi Rahman, a strategic human resources consultant, and Nick Godfrey, a seasoned employee benefits advisor, as they explore the many challenges that businesses face in attracting, developing, and engaging top talent. So sit back, relax, and learn from the experts on how your talent matters when it comes to growing a business.
Hi, it's Nick Godfrey here, and welcome to another Your Talent Matters podcast. And I'm really happy to have Mehdi Rahman, my partner in crime, along today. For those who've been watching our podcast a while ago, we did a one on the disability tax credit, which is really, it's our number one podcast, which is great with over 1,400 views. And through the social media and LinkedIn, Trish Van Sickle found us, and we wanted to talk about what else you could do if you qualify for the disability tax credit. And there is a registered savings plan, and that's why we thought we'd have her along all the way from Bragg Creek, Alberta. Go ahead, Mehdi.
Yeah, Trish, I mean, it's great to have you. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited is a lot of folks right now in the workplace, they're getting pulled in multiple directions. They have their work that they need to do and they want to be productive and they want to be successful. But then they also have elder parents that are, that need help. And then they also have children. And some of these folks in their lives, either the elder or parent or the child or other people, they might have a disability, right? And so there's a lot of the stressors that come along with that. And so I'm really fascinated to find out more about, number one, how this came about for you in your life. And then from there, we have thousands of questions that I'm sure our listeners also have. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks again for having me this morning. Having a platform just to raise my voice and raise awareness is my literal crusade. So the RDSP came into our lives kind of by default. My youngest son, who's now 22.
Just for everyone out there, RDSP, just spell it out. What's everything stand for?
Yeah, so the RDSP is the Registered Disability Savings Plan. And it is a registered savings plan, much like the RRSP, but for people with disabilities. Works different than the RDSP, but there are some similarities with it. So yeah, our son was diagnosed at 2 with something called Stickler's syndrome. At the time, I think he was the 3rd kid in Canada that was diagnosed. It's much more diagnosed and known about now. And it's basically a connective tissue disorder where he doesn't have the collagen that we have. And what he does have, his body chews away really quickly. So joints and bones, like a 90-year-old, 80-year-old. And it's also the glue that holds your eyes together. So preemptively, we put him into a school that catered to blind and disabled or children, and thought preemptively we're going to get him to learn Braille and all these amazing things so that when inevitably his eyesight does go, he'll be prepared. And again, at that time, we had no idea. So fast forward 11 years later, he finishes up that school, moves on, and I fell into the world of finance by sitting with someone who talked to me about finances and opened my eyes to, oh my gosh, we're not doing things wrong, but we sure aren't doing things right. Through that training and education and licensing, I heard about the RDSP, a very little blip. And I caught my ear and I was like, hold on a second. So I did research. And found out about this amazing program that was opened in 2008, and how it can truly change the financial trajectory of one's life that is living with disability. And so I honestly, you guys, I went back to the school and I said, okay, whoa, why didn't we know about this? How did you guys not tell us that? And they said, well, it's not our job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And kind of that's where I went, wow, this is interesting. And I work with many other organizations that initially that's their response to. It's not our job. We have to stay in our lane. We don't want to be financially responsible for anything. And you don't have to be financially responsible, just provide the education that's out there and let them research it. So yeah, from there, I'm like, that's it. This, my crusade, along with, everything else I do as far as working with people with money, is making sure that people that could qualify with this at least understand the program and know where to get the resources to get hooked up to it.
Well, thank you. I mean, thanks for the vulnerability and sharing your story and your family. But then also just like opening our eyes to this idea, like, again, like we have thousands of questions on behalf of our folks. And, so, tell us a little bit more about this disability savings plan. Again, very similar to a registered savings plan or RSP. Like, when does a family qualify? How do they get started on this? Like, what are some of the initial things that we should be grounded in and understand?
Yeah, I think the first thing people understand, I will be obviously stay very high level because we only have a limited amount of time. But so the Registered Disability Savings Program is a program that's set up for people to save for their future. So people have to go in with the mindset of RRSP. This is for your future. This is for down the road. As soon as a person qualifies for the disability tax credit, they need to look at their eligibility for the RDSP. And once you have the DTC, which is the hardest part of the process, the only other things you need to qualify is to have a valid social insurance number, be a resident of Canada, and be under the age of 59. That being said, after the age of 49, the government grants and bonds that get funneled into that are no longer available to you, but there are reasons to still open it between that age of 49 and 59. Probably not something we're going to go into today, but it's important to know, even if you're not, if you're 57, 58, there may be still a reason for you to open that. What breaks my heart is when I come across people that have had the DTC for a very long time in their life and are then now just finding out about it. Again, kind of like my son, but at least my son could still apply for it. Whereas, other people are like, sorry, I can't even help you. So the moment you end your 49th year, the grants and bonds are no longer available. So DTC, valid social insurance number, resident of Canada, and under the age of 59, 49 to qualify for the grants and bonds.
And now a lot of
I want to ask the how much. Of course, I always go to the money. How much do they get?
How much? That's a great question. So it is also a program that kind of mirrors the RESP in regards to what the government matches. So let's break it down this way. There's two sides to the program. There's the bonds and there's the grants. If we think about the bonds are for more of a lower income family. So it's an extra boost for those people. What that is, if the income of the household is less than 53,359, I don't know, they make the numbers hard just so we have more to mumble out, around 53,000. If your net income, family net income, is under that amount, then you would qualify for $1,000 a year for 20 years, so up to 20,000. Now, if your income is between 34,000 and that 53,000, then it's prorated. So that $1,000 a year might look like, I don't know, $950 might be $9.50. So it's prorated based on the income. And if your income is higher than that 53,000, did I do this right? Sorry, less than 34,000. Sorry, my apologies. Less than 34,000 is $1,000 a year. Between 34 and 53, it's prorated, and above 53, there's no qualification for the bond. My apologies.
The bond, okay.
Even at the prorated rate, it is proportional. It still maxes out at $20,000. So if you're only getting $500 a year instead of $1,000, it still goes to the maximum of $20,000, and that's on the bond side. So somebody
explain the bond. What is the bond?
It's just the portion of free money that the government is going to funnel into the RDSP.
Okay.
So for someone that has no money to put into the RDSP or has no family members to contribute to the RDSP, that RDSP can just be the $1,000 a year. If that, depending, of course, we all know the market, the longer you're in it, the more money you make. But if a bond starts when the person is 5 years old and they get their $20,000 over years, and that is invested properly, that can be hundreds of thousands of dollars for them at the age of 60.
Right.
So that's the bond side of it.
That's the government contribution side, is what you're saying. The bond is the government's participation. Okay.
Exactly. So people don't have to worry about having money to open this up. again, depending who they work with to open it up. In my case, I open them for no cost. I do that. That's my way of giving back. So you can come to me with $0 to contribute, with a low income, with a child or a family member that qualifies. We'll do the paperwork, get it in place, and the government will give you that $1,000 each year or whatever you qualify for. And that's just free money from the government. So even at the very least, you're going to get, a chunk of money from the government. Then the grants side of it is interesting. It is based on contributions based on income. So when money is contributed into the fund, the government then looks at the net income again, and depending on what that net income, they're going to match the dollars contributed. So if a person makes less than or equal to 106,717 on a yearly basis, the government is going to match the first $500 contributed times 3. So your 500 becomes 1,500. And your next $1,000, the government's going to match times 2. So your 1,000 becomes 2,000. So your $1,500 contribution, the government's going to give you a $3,500 match.
Wow.
That is the typical match. That's a typical amount that you can contribute on a yearly basis. If the DTC and the RDSP are backdated, there is a period of time where you can do some catch up. Okay, so when we look at the bond side, if you qualify 10 years back, they're going to drop $10,000 into that RDSP. They're going to say, wow, you qualify back, even if it's further, they'll go max 10 years. 10 years for the full $1,000 a year, whatever the level is, they're going to drop that into the RDSP. On the grants side, they're going to give you an amount based on all their calculations and income of what you want to contribute and what they will match. We see very often the first couple years of an RDSP being opened, where somebody does qualify to backdate, where they can contribute up to $3,500 the first year.
Wow.
So they put in $3,500, the government matches them over 10.
Wow. Yeah, amazing.
This works.
Right? It's amazing. So if, let's say you qualify, you're in that in-between stage and you qualify for some of the bonds and you get backdated for the bonds, and then you put 3,500 in and the government gives you say 10,500, you put that all in at the first the first amount in that RDSP. Think of the growth that's going to have over years. That being said, that's the first year. The second year, more than likely, again, depending how far back it goes, there's another 3,500 that can be contributed and another 10,500 that can be matched. Now, again, those numbers are all variable, right? So it depends on all those factors.
Yeah.
But it's really a way to kickstart it. Now, with the grant side, if your net income is over that 106,717, then they match you dollar for dollar. So even the higher income folks will get dollar for dollar.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is serious, and this is a big hole.
Serious money.
Yeah.
And the other one other thing to that, to consider is once the person has become an age of majority, it's then based on their income. So a lot of times, maybe the family makes a good chunk of money. So everything's like 1-to-1 and maybe not the full bond, but then the child becomes age of majority and it's now based on their income. And if they are maybe not, making that $106,000 a year, then all of those amounts. So it's on a yearly basis. The government's going to reassess and let them know every February. They get a letter from the government once this RDSP is in place. And they're going to say, hey, Nick, if you contribute this is what we're going to pay to match it. You can over contribute their match, but they're still only going to match that much. So if you put in 5,000 and they're only going to match you 1,500, great. You put in 5,000 and they've given you your their match. You can do that. There's a maximum lifetime contribution amount of $200,000 though. So it tops off at that.
Yeah. But again, you've talked about the power of compounding and how over time this is, and again, the intention is to set up our loved ones with, some sort of financial security should we not be around, or should, others be not around. So Like what an amazing program. And this is again across Canada.
Yes,
Uh,
it's a federal program.
and like to get started, like, do I go to my bank, or do I like I have to find a specialist to be able to help me with this? Do I go to my accountant? Who do I go to?
Yeah, so this is where I get a little opinionated. So bear
Okay.
with me here, guys. I don't
So
ever
yeah, so
want to
there's an
step.
asterisk beside this.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so when you get your DTC letter from the government, they will say you also qualify for the RDSP. Go to your, from what I understand, the letter tells you to go to your local bank.
Okay.
They are the cornerstone. That's who everyone trusts and believes because they're there, etc. The problem is because of all the intricacies of the RDSP,
Yeah.
they're not typically trained to give proper advice on it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we actually transfer a lot of them out of the bank because the first question they'll ask if and when they sit down to do the RDSP is what is your, what all the KYC, which is know your client. What is your risk tolerant? What, can you withstand the market? And people go, oh no, it's there for their life. I can't do, oh, it's got to be safe. So it sits in a money, it sits in a very low fund that has no progression. A quick story of one that I had, a lady had it open for 3 years at a large bank. They were paying her 0.25% rate of return. So total of 0.75 in 3 years, but they were charging her 1% a year to have that type of account open. So she was losing money. So this is my suggestion. And again, I'm biased. You need to find a financial specialist that is an RDSP specialist. This is not a moneymaker. So you will not find people digging for your business when it comes to the RDSP. It's not like you're going to give them $200,000 and they're going to make their 3, 4, or 5% off the top and trail, all that kind of stuff. It's more work than it is reward at the beginning. Down the road, when the money's growing, then you as an advisor get some more, you get your little kickback or whatever from the fund company. So you can go to your financial advisor. You can ask them again. They may know about it, but do they know about it? Right? They
So
need
what would be the question I would ask, or one would ask, to like qualify and be like, oh, this person is an expert or this person is aware, right? And again, like, you don't want to, being non-biased, like looking at the bank, it's accessible to a lot of people, right? A lot of people have relationships, and that's, so they may have awareness of it, but they may not be specialized or educated in the product itself. And so what would be a question that a person could ask to just kind of qualify and see if this person, the individual, the specialist is of breed, of caliber almost?
Yeah. So my initial question would be, have you heard of the RDSP?
Okay.
And what can you tell me about it? And the points that they need to be able to cover with you is that it is like a registered retirement plan in the way that it is grown tax-free, that there is a bond and a grant side of it that is based on income, that you get that letter once a year. And what do you do with that letter once a year? And how would you invest that for me? What kind of growth would I expect to see? And those are kind of the basic questions of, do they have knowledge? Because I think the way they respond to you, you're going to get a good feeling.
Yeah, thank you. That's so helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, I could probably give you some more points on that, but I mean, it's really just let them feed you. Because if you ask me, guys, we'll be here till tomorrow for me to tell you everything I know about it. And again, not tooting my own horn. When you're passionate about something, you want to know everything
We
about
could
it.
tell. We could tell. We love that.
Well, here's a question, because I do know about RSPs. So when I make a contribution to my RSP, I get a tax deduction. When I make a contribution to my disabled child's disability registered plan, do I get a tax deduction? No.
You do not. What the comparison is mostly when it comes to the RRSP is that the money grows tax-free.
Right.
And that when the money is taken out down the road, it is taken out as an income. So there is tax on it as it comes out, but it grows tax-free. So it's important to be part of the plan for the person. If they are working, I always say when you retire, you want to milk the cow, right? You want what's in your RRSP versus your non-registered, plus your pension from the government, plus maybe a pension from work, plus non-registered cash savings. You want to pull a little bit from everywhere so that your tax is minimized. And when you have the RDSP to add in there, that's just one other source that you can pull an income from, that's going to help minimize those taxes. And unfortunately, fortunately, however you want to look at it, a lot of people that are you're 60 at that point. So if you've had a good career or not, at 60, your income is typically lower when you are somebody that qualifies for the RDSP. It's just kind of statistically that way. So your taxes aren't going to be maxed out. And honestly, so what you're paying taxes on, how much free money over time. And when we look at like what that money can grow to, if I just gave you an example of, let's see if I go to this one, I'm just going to give you a really quick example, and I shouldn't be shooting numbers out because I'm not liable for these numbers. I just want to give you a picture or a snapshot of what somebody may expect. If we dealt with a person that was 19 years old and the household income or their income was less than $26,000 a year, let's just say, they would maximize the grants and bonds of the program if they put their $1,500 in on a yearly basis. If that was invested properly at, say, an average rate of return of 7%, and honestly, that's being fairly conservative when it comes to RDSPs because there's some amazing funds out there. But at 7%, they would have contributed about $46,000. And by the time they're 60, they're going to have over $1.1 million in that RDSP.
So I'm going to just,
that's peace of mind, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I think the story here, I think about a lot of Nick's clients and my clients, these business owners that have, either retail staff or, entry-level staff, and their incomes are approximately 30,000 or whatever. I mean, $1,500 a year, putting that away. Yes, it could be a little bit difficult and uncomfortable, but, for that loved one that they have, it's going to give them what Nick said, peace of mind, and give them, something that maybe that family at that time is not going to be able to, almost partake in because they're in a lower income. So if people are, or as people are, really worried about their loved ones, this is a great opportunity to, take care of their and secure their future, and give them something that maybe they don't even have in their life. So
well,
it's $100 a month, really. And I mean, $100 a month also isn't easy for anyone. But we also have to remember they don't have to put 1,500 in. They can put 500 in.
And what a great point. Yeah, like anything works. Anything
is something. And in fact, if I can just really quickly, people say, well, who contributes to this, right? Like who's responsible for putting the money in? And, typically it's the parent or the caregiver, which, there's, again, holders and beneficiary. The beneficiary is the person that benefits from the program. The holder is the person that holds it. So like an RESP, a child isn't old enough, or, they can't hold it. So an adult holds it for them. In the case of the RDSP, that's how it works as well, is if it's not the parent, then it's a caregiver, legal guardian, or if there's an institution that's taking care of the child, they're the holder. And then when the child turns age of majority, if they are contractually competent, meaning they understand what it's all about, we can transfer it into their name. Yeah. If they're not contractually competent, it can stay with the holder that's there. And again, it's then once their age of majority, it's based on their income. Yeah. So one point I just want to make on that investing side of it, because it's a really important side of this, Maddie, and Nick, this is where, people go to the bank for that security and safety, but they don't typically get invested properly. So if we take that 1.1 million, let's say at 7% for all of those years, and we put that at 3% instead, that 1 million is only around 345,000.
Yeah. Now, I know we're starting to get, wrap up in time, but I'm also thinking about, if it's not the parent or the family that's able to put this in, my children always get, grandma to give them $20 for their birthdays and stuff like that. And, so maybe grandma or maybe uncle or auntie says, hey, this is for your, retirement disability savings plan, and puts that cash in, and, that also can help as well. So
That's a good
Thank
idea.
you brought up a very important point that I bring up in all my webinars as well, is that anyone can contribute. So if there's somebody that wants to regularly contribute, so let's say your parents want to regularly contribute to a child's RDSP, we can set them up so they can just funnel their money in when they want.
Wow.
Alternatively, someone says, hey, here's $20 for your child's birthday gift. And you say, you know what, thanks, because this is going to turn into 60, or this is going to turn into 40, and then that 40 is going to get invested and grow. If you think of your child's birthday on a yearly basis, maybe they get $200 from gifts, and that $200 based on income at the lowest becomes $400 and then grows. So that's something I always push on to the holders to really understand that. And, when you're dealing with some children, a gift is nothing. Like, they don't know, in some cases, even what it is. They don't get it. They also don't get $20 bill to go to the bulk barn and buy a bunch of candy, right? What they will get is when they're an adult and they're still being taken care of.
Yeah.
So just quickly, because I know we are at the end, just so how people understand how the money comes out of it. If the money has not been accessed at all by the age of 60, they will get a letter. There's a lovely government formula that calculates how much on a yearly basis they're going to get paid out of that. That letter will say, hey, you're going to get $20,000 a year out of this, or whatever the case is. How would you like that paid? We set that up. It's weekly, monthly, however that works. That's called the lifetime disability assistance payment. So that's going to pay you for the rest of your life. You can, at an earlier date, take a disability assistance payment. If the last government contribution was more than 10 years ago, you take that money out without any kind of consequence other than the taxes. If there had been government grants and bonds dropped into it within that 10-year period, they will take back a portion of the money based on what you pull out of it. Because again, the plan is for long term. Now, when these start really young, and the child qualifies for the max, and I forgot to say on the grant side, they give you that grant money up to $70,000. So Nick, for you and the money, all in all, the government will give up to, depending on income and all that stuff, up to $90,000 between the grants and bonds.
Wow.
Wow. That's real money.
There isn't any other government program that's going to do that for you.
No.
And for a group of citizens and folks that really need it, like they really need that, and we want that for them. So what an amazing program, what an illuminating kind of like session with you. Thank you so much for that.
I want to add one last thing, which is because this resonated with me and I took notes, is that I use healthcare spending accounts for a lot of my business owners. And I do have a business owner who has some disabled children with autism who have to go to a special school. And that's one of the reasons he set up the healthcare spending account, was that he can take that tuition and run it through and make it a business expense and tax-free to benefits to the kids. Not that they're really taxpayers, but it's a great way to write off these large bills. And I need to circle back to him now and go, now, do you have the disability tax credit? Because if you do, now we've got another tool for you to use for your boys to help them, prepare long.
I think, like, if we sum this all up, it is that if you or anyone and honestly, even the disability tax credit, which I'm sure you learned through your podcast on that, is there's so many more people available that should qualify for that just don't. When it comes to the RDSP, there's, I think, what the numbers reflect, somewhere around 330,000 Canadians that have the DTC in place that do not have the RDSP in place. 330,000 people in Canada would qualify. And that's just the people that knew enough to qualify for the DTC, right? People don't understand you can qualify for the DTC for lots of things. They, and even doctors, they say, well, you're still walking around, you're fine. But, incontinence, Crohn's, colitis, diabetes, there's so many other issues that qualify. So snapshot of the RDSP is, if you qualify for the DTC or think you may, investigate that, go down that road, find the proper program to get you through that. Benefits 2 is one of those programs. To plug them, I get no financial gain out of it. I just know that they're awesome to help people walk through that. And then when you get the RDSP letter, go to someone who's going to care. My February is the biggest month of the year because I know my people are getting their letters, and I'm like, what does your letter say? How much do you have to contribute? You don't have to contribute it right away. Wait till tax time, or do $100 a month or $50. Let's figure out what works. And next February, you're going to hear from me again, because I do not want you to miss the opportunity to grow this, have it properly invested. We work with Mackenzie Investments. I can't even put my money in their funds because they're specific to the RDSP. So it's just ask questions, advocate, get your person in the RDSP plan as soon as possible, and make sure it's managed properly.
We're going to put all this in the show notes on YouTube so people can get and visit Benefits 2. And in the last video we had, we've got Christine's phone number there, and she says that lots of people are phoning her and asking her questions. How do I get the disability tax credit? So we got the ball rolling here. It's very exciting, and we're great to have you. Great to have you along today, Trish.
Yep.
Thanks
and
very
I'm
much.
more than happy to field any questions down the road from either of you, or anything that filters through you, or if my contact information is also available.
We'll put it in the notes as well so that people can reach you directly. So that would be great.
Yes, many voices is my crusade. So you too,
Excellent.
Thank you, because you just gave me a voice that's going to reach people that, like you said, mind calming, knowing that they're able to do something this special for the loved ones they have. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks.
Well,
see ya.
Nick, are we going to subscribe?
Oh yeah, slam the button, subscribe, do that. All
And we'll also put in all the contacts, and then websites, links to websites, so that you can do this. And again, like, if you have any questions or even requests for future podcasts, please let us know. We'll source that person and get them here and ask them some of the questions that you're probably looking for. So with that, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
You're awesome.
It matters.
Another great one.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Your Talent Matters podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with others. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. For more information or to connect with your hosts, you can visit their website, yourtalentmatters.ca. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.